Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine waking up one morning, maybe it's a beautiful day, birds chirping, whatever, but instead of feeling rested, your eyes are suddenly itchy like crazy.
Yeah, or maybe a weird rash pops up on your arm.
Right. Or you start sneezing uncontrollably, like something out of a cartoon, and
Mm.
you're thinking, hang on, I don't get allergies. It really does seem to hit people out of nowhere sometimes.
It really does. And what's interesting, and what our sources are pointing to, is that this is happening more and more.
Yeah.
Adult-onset allergies, well, they seem to be genuinely on the rise.
Catching people totally off guard.
Completely. It sort of challenges that old idea that allergies are just, a childhood thing.
Exactly. We usually picture kids,
Right.
right? Runny noses, maybe needing allergy shots, not necessarily ourselves suddenly dealing with this in our 30s, 40s, maybe even later.
Uh-huh.
So, just to be clear for everyone listening, what is an adult onset allergy, technically speaking?
Well, in simple terms, it's when you develop allergic reactions for the very first time as an adult. Could be your 30s, 40s, older still. And the triggers, well, they can be all sorts of things. The usual suspects like pollen, pet dander,
Right.
but also maybe new sensitivities to foods you've eaten your whole life without a problem, or even medications.
That's the part that feels so strange, isn't it? Like you could love shrimp, eat it all the time, and then suddenly, boom, your body decides it's the enemy.
It is strange. It's like your immune system just flips a switch.
Yeah.
Because fundamentally, an allergy is your immune system overreacting, right?
Yeah.
Mistaking something harmless for a major threat.
Mm-hmm.
With adult-onset allergies, something seems to change later in life to cause this new, well, hypersensitivity. Some of the research suggests maybe subtle shifts in how the immune system regulates itself over time.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive, looking at the information we've gathered, is to try and understand why this might be happening more often.
Right.
What the symptoms actually look like, because apparently they can be pretty sneaky.
They definitely can be.
And crucially, what you can actually do about it if you suspect this is happening to you.
Yeah, understanding the why and recognizing the what really empowers you, doesn't it? It helps you manage things and, keep living your life well.
Absolutely. So let's tackle the why first. What are some of the main theories floating around about why more adults are developing allergies?
Well, there's no single easy answer, unfortunately. But there's some really interesting ideas being explored. One big one is the hygiene hypothesis.
Ah, yes, I've heard of this. The idea that maybe we're too clean now, especially as kids.
That's the gist of it, yeah. The thinking is that our super sanitized environments mean kids today, maybe compared to previous generations, don't get exposed to as many microbes and sort of harmless challenges early on.
Okay, so the immune system doesn't get the right kind of training? Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Like it needs to learn what's actually bad versus what's just, dust or pollen.
Kind of like that. Think of it needing a diverse boot camp in childhood. Without enough of those early exposures, it might be, let's say, more prone to overreacting later in life to things that aren't really threats. It's about building that tolerance early.
That's fascinating. But it feels like there must be more to it than just cleaner homes, right?
Oh, for sure. Lifestyle factors are definitely considered major players, too.
Like what?
Things like increased pollution exposure, changes in our gut microbiome, the bacteria in our digestive system. That could be from diet changes, maybe more antibiotic use.
Mm-hmm.
Chronic stress is another one often mentioned. And just general shifts in what we eat overall. It's potentially like a perfect storm of different factors.
A perfect storm creating sniffles and itches. And it's not just internal stuff, is it? External changes matter too, like moving.
Exactly. Environmental changes are a big piece of the puzzle. If you move to a completely new area, for instance,
New city, new state.
yeah, you're suddenly exposed to a whole different set of pollens, molds, things your immune system has just never seen before.
Yeah. And that can be enough to trigger it.
It seems so, yes.
Yeah.
Plus, hormonal shifts are another potential trigger mentioned in some cases. Things like pregnancy or menopause, those big hormonal changes, might sometimes coincide with allergy symptoms starting.
Wow. Okay. So it's this mix of our own bodies changing over time and also how we interact with the world changing around us.
That sums it up pretty well.
Okay, let's switch gears then. What do these allergies actually look like when they show up in adulthood? You said the symptoms can be sneaky.
Yes, that's really key. They often don't scream allergy right away. The initial signs can be quite subtle, easy to brush off.
Like what kind of things?
Well, maybe a runny nose that just won't quit and you keep thinking it's a cold that's dragging on forever.
Uh-huh, I could see that.
Or itchy, watery eyes that you blame on staring at your computer screen too much.
Guilty.
Or maybe some skin irritation, a bit of eczema, and you figure, oh, must be a new laundry detergent or soap.
Right, things you can easily explain away. But there are less obvious signs too, aren't there?
Absolutely. Things like feeling unusually tired, like a fatigue that doesn't quite match how much you've been doing,
Hmm.
or a nagging cough without other cold symptoms, even sometimes recurring headaches that you can't quite figure out the cause of. People don't always connect those dots back to an allergy.
No, you probably think stress, or maybe you're coming down with something else entirely.
Exactly.
And I guess with food allergies starting in adulthood, that must be particularly jarring and maybe more serious.
That's a really important distinction. Yes, adult-onset food allergies can show up quite suddenly, and sometimes the reactions are pretty intense. Hives, bad stomach pain,
Yeah.
nausea, vomiting,
Whoa.
even potentially more severe systemic reactions. And a big issue here is preparedness.
Meaning,
Well, an adult who suddenly reacts to, say, nuts for the first time might not immediately recognize what's happening. They're probably less likely to have an EpiPen handy or know the emergency protocol compared to someone who grew up managing a food allergy.
that's a really crucial point. You wouldn't be thinking allergy if you've eaten that food your whole life. You might just think you have food poisoning or something.
Precisely. And that delay in recognition could potentially make a bad reaction worse.
Okay, this leads to the big question then. If you suspect, hey, maybe I'm developing an allergy as an adult, what should you do first?
Right. What are the first steps? Well, based on everything we've discussed, it seems the absolute first thing is to play detective with your own body.
How so?
Really start tracking things meticulously. Keep a symptom diary. What did you eat? Where were you? What cleaning products, soaps, lotions did you use? When did the symptoms start? How long did they last?
Gotcha. Like collecting clues.
Exactly. That information can be incredibly helpful later. And this is critical. That's just step one. Step two is seeing an expert.
You mean don't just guess based on your symptom diary?
Please don't. Self-diagnosing allergies is really tricky and often inaccurate. You absolutely need to consult a qualified allergist. They have the proper tools and knowledge, skin prick tests, specific blood tests, maybe patch tests to actually pinpoint what, if anything, you're allergic to.
And I assume it's important not to just ignore these symptoms if they keep happening. You can't just hope they go away on their own.
No, definitely not. Ignoring potential allergies, well, it can lead to other problems down the line.
Right.
Untreated hay fever type allergies, for example, can sometimes contribute to chronic sinus infections. Or they might trigger asthma or make existing asthma worse.
Okay, that makes sense.
And with food allergies, as we've said, there's always that risk of a severe, even life-threatening reaction if you accidentally eat the trigger food again. You really need to know what you're dealing with.
So let's say you go to the allergist, you get a diagnosis. What happens then? What are the options for managing this?
Well, the first line of defense, especially for food allergies, but also environmental ones, is avoidance. Trying to stay away from your known triggers as much as possible.
Which isn't always easy, right? Especially with pollen or dust mites.
Not always easy, no. So, for symptoms, there are treatments. Over-the-counter antihistamine pills or nasal sprays can work well for milder seasonal or intermittent symptoms.
Okay, the stuff you see at the pharmacy.
Exactly. For more persistent or bothersome allergies, an allergist might talk to you about prescription options, maybe stronger nasal sprays, or even allergy shots.
Allergy shots. Immunotherapy, right. How does that work again?
Right, immunotherapy. The basic idea is to gradually expose your immune system to tiny controlled amounts of the allergen over a period of time. The goal is to train your immune system to become less sensitive, to build up tolerance.
Interesting. Does it work?
It can be very effective for many people with environmental allergies like pollen, dust mites, or even insect stings. It's a longer commitment, though. And then there are newer options, too, like biologic medications, usually for more severe cases like difficult-to-control asthma or chronic hives.
So it sounds like even if you do develop allergies later in life, there are definitely ways to manage them once you know what's going on.
Absolutely. There are pathways forward.
Okay, so wrapping this up. The main takeaway here seems to be that adult-onset allergies are, well, a real thing.
Very real and seemingly more common.
Yeah, it's not just some weird fluke if you suddenly find yourself sneezing every spring when you never used to, or reacting badly to a food you always loved. It shouldn't just be dismissed.
Exactly. That all this information really underscores is how adaptable and sometimes, yeah, how quirky our immune systems can be.
Quirky is a good word for it.
It's there to protect us, fundamentally. But sometimes that protection mechanism goes a bit haywire. It might need a bit of help, some informed guidance to get back on track.
So the advice is really to listen to your body. Be an active participant. Pay attention to changes, even subtle ones.
Done.
And if something feels off, persistently off, don't just ignore it. Get it checked out by a professional.
That's the best approach.
All right, here's a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe mull over. What little changes, maybe shifts you've barely noticed, have happened in your own body lately, things you might have just brushed off? Could any of those be your immune system trying to send you a different kind of message? It's just a reminder that our health isn't static, right? It's always evolving, and staying informed is really the best way to navigate whatever comes next.